heal from a disease like cancer, not really going the conventional route, if that's what you choose to do. I will tell you briefly my story, how it all began, what I did as much as I have time for, and also what I've learned from that experience, because we learn so much from even our greatest challenges. In fact, for idiots like me, it's the only way you learn anything. And if you're still with me, and I'm really grateful, there are some people here at the end of such a eventful day, so I'm glad your stamina has lasted until now. I would really welcome your questions, and I hope I can give you an answer that's okay for you. So, just very briefly, what spontaneous healing means, in case you don't know in medical terms. It means really that a cancer that was there disappears in spite of there being no treatment, meaning no conventional treatment. And another way of putting it is that it refers to exceptional, unexplained, partial or complete disappearance of cancer. I take exception to the word exceptional. What I did, every single person can do, all right? I'm no exception. It's a matter of choice, but we all have within us the ability to heal. Our bodies know how to heal. It's just we don't connect to that. And unexplained, I'm hoping that by the end of this presentation, you will understand, there will be a bit more clarity as to what has brought about this spontaneous healing. And if you doubt, again, that I'm one of these unique people who can do this and nobody else can, you can go on the internet and put in this title, Spontaneous Remission, and annotated, etc., 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 and you will get a document of over 1,000 cases that were reported by consultants and that have been published in peer-reviewed journals. I will say that most consultants probably don't have the time and don't bother to report instances of spontaneous healing because it doesn't fit in with anything that they do. And therefore, evidence of people like me is lost to you. So I'm trying to bring this back to you today. Not because I was disappointed in the children I had to teach, but because of what I had to teach them. And I felt it was irrelevant, and I felt it, it didn't, my passion for teaching had gone. The thing really to point out is that there was no reason for me to seek an alternative route. I was not at all connected to an alternative way of healing myself. I come from a family where cancer is rife. I mean, I don't know really a member of my close relatives who hasn't had a brush with cancer. My dad had cancer, his brother and sister had cancer, and I could go on several generations. They all had conventional treatment, so there was no reason for me to expect anything else or to know that there was another possibility. So when my consultant told me that the proposed treatment was going to be chemotherapy and radiotherapy, that's really what I expected, no problem. But what I wanted a treatment to start. As you can imagine, you feel you have got this diagnosis and you feel fear, obviously, and you want something to be done, anything. I was kind of able to ask whether this kind of treatment was going to help my cancer, and I was told that some lymphomas are containable with treatment. Very careful terms. Containable doesn't mean they're going to, cure it. And I was also expected to have treatment, ongoing treatment for the rest of my life. I didn't ask what that meant for the rest of my life. I think I had some wisdom there. And but I remember thinking at that time, there was a wee kind of flash in the back of my head, and you'll have to excuse my French, but I thought that's not bloody good enough, you know. And then that was it, that was lost to me. What staggered me was that they told me I had to wait for treatment to commence. There's some slow-growing ones. You have to, according to conventional treatment, you have to wait until you understand which type you're dealing with in order to give the right treatment, the right amount of chemotherapy, radiotherapy, whatever. So I was told I would have to wait to start with for about 5 weeks. Don't know whether you can imagine what that felt like. You know, yes, you have cancer. Yes, you're going to have treatment for the rest of your life, but we're not going to start now. And I kept thinking, but don't you watch television? You know, don't they tell you you've got to get this thing, you know, early on, and you've got to really give it treatment there and then to get the best chance of survival. So I was, that was a total shock. So I think, you know, I was in shock for many days after that. But I realized now, with the benefit of hindsight, that this was actually a blessing in disguise. Because in the time that I had to wait for treatment to start, I actually had time to start reading books and meet people who were going to help me to actually find reflexology in order to relax, to calm down, to be more centered. And in order to help me cope with the waiting for the treatment to commence, I started to have reflexology. I found someone where I live who was very practiced in all sorts of therapies. But what, sorry, I'm going ahead of myself, what I hadn't been prepared for when I started to have reflexology was that my reflexologist would say to me, don't have chemotherapy, Cathy, it's going to kill you. So I was left thinking, well, if I have chemotherapy, it might kill me, it might not actually get rid of my cancer, I might have to have it at several, stages in my life. So I started to think. He sent me to a naturopath who, after having examined me, was just so appalled at the size of my tumours. I had tumours all over my abdomen, that he said to me, no, you go and have chemotherapy, because for that kind of cancer, you know, it does work, and you're far too advanced for me to consider. And also I think he felt that I hadn't yet made up my mind as to what I wanted to do. He probably felt I was in a place of fear, and that for me to open my mind to another way of dealing with this might not, I wasn't quite ready, he thought. So I stayed with my reflexologist. Anyone familiar with Rudolf Preuss at all? He was a gentleman who cured people of cancer with his protocol in the 30s. He cured about 45,000 people of cancer and never managed to get his protocol kind of accepted by the powers that be. And his protocol, well, I looked at the book, and of course there wasn't a word about non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I looked at his protocol, which was basically you had to fast for 28 days, so you kind of, because food requires so much energy to be processed, fasting liberates your energy to be available for healing, and your body knows how to heal. And the nutrients that you need without draining you. And if you eat meat, if you eat a lot of meat, when you're challenged like I was, you would then you would not have so much energy available for healing. So that was a choice that I made, but it doesn't mean I didn't have any meat at all. I had a little organic chicken, free-range organic, and also some oily fish. And certainly the fish, oily fish, was, I think, really important, as it contains essential fatty acids that actually help your cells to open up. and release. They help you to be better hydrated as herbal decoctions. I wasn't too pleased when I saw fasting. I don't do fasting. I like my food. So I again looked at the book again, and it mentioned that for leukemia, you could have a normal diet, but without meat and without, heavy stuff like that to digest. And I thought, well, blood, lymph, similar. I think I'll do that rather than fast for 28 days. So I told my consultant that this was what I was going to do. I gave her Rudolf Beuys' book, and I said, look, what do you think? And, obviously she said, well, I don't know anything about nutrition, and certainly I don't know of anyone who's got well using nutrition alone. So, but by all means, do it, And they continued to monitor me. Again, I thought I was doing that whilst waiting for proper treatment to commence. That's where I was to start with. And, whoops, sorry, you're not meant to. Well, okay, let's have a look at it. This is where I was. So all the black bits like that were tumours. So you can see that those were quite substantial, and in fact one of them was so large that it could be measured with a tape measure, and that's how my consultant, to start with, decided to track its progress to see whether it was getting larger or not. Really high-tech juices would really be more beneficial, more nutrients and so on. And as luck would have it, as soon as I had this in my head, a friend of mine popped in to visit me, and she had a book about juicing vegetables by Sherry Calbom, and that's called Juicing for Life. And so I took to that book like a duck to water, and I started that protocol, but I kept Beuys's herbal decoctions for, I think, certainly the first year. So very soon my consultant said, well, I don't see a reason to start treatment, actually, because you're remaining stable, and actually your tumours are changing. They're becoming softer, which apparently is a sign that they're disintegrating. So she was actually quite interested in what I was doing. So I was diagnosed in April, and by September, I don't know whether, because it's not exactly the same slice, it's a bit difficult to see the difference. But if you look at this area here, where those really big tumours were, you can see that they've kind of decreased. And in fact, they're decreased by 75%, free of cancer. So, just to give you a bit more detail about what my program was, and again, I will just say that I have a book written about this, so that you can all have as many details as you want, but I still want to give you as much as I can now. I didn't just do juicing. I became aware that I'm not just my body, I'm not just my mind, but I also have another dimension, which unfortunately I had completely forgotten about, or I wasn't willing to listen to. And I had learned transcendental meditation way back in the 80s, exposed to harmful chemicals in apparently harmless produce, like our cleaning stuff, washing powder and so on. It's all full of chemicals that you can absorb through in your respiratory tract, and when you're wearing them, when you come into contact with them. And for instance, fluoride in toothpaste is one such chemical you really don't want to have in your system. Chlorine, bleach as well is something you need. Just because you're willing to go and meet that light is enough, So I had stacks of emotional issues. Repressed emotions were having an impact on me. Everything gets remembered, everything gets stored within your body if you don't express it. And when there's enough of that, you can get to crisis point. So in that way, and only that way, would I say that, yes, okay, there was a part I played in my cancer, but that also gives me the key to play a part in me being well. Because teaching was no longer for me, or at least teaching French was no longer for me. Didn't know what else to do. And then I realized that my purpose is always going to have will have something to do with people, with being involved with people. And certainly I try to be there and help people feel better about their lives and live better to the extent that they can, that they want to be when we are in balance. I could go on, but I think I've already got to my 30.
Yeah, if you want to take your